What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, Mass Media Hysteria. It is Sunday, August 29th, although this will be up on my channel on August the 30th, which is Monday. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Court. I will be your host for the duration. With me, as always, is Chris.
How's it going, everybody?
And down below, we've got Andris.
Howdy.
And we got a pretty stacked show for you today. So let me just quickly go over the topics we're going to talk about. First, we're going to do a spoilers review of a brand new VOD film that came out on Friday. It's called No Man of God. It stars Elijah Wood and Luke Kirby, and it's based on the true story of an FBI profiler who went over the course of a few years to sit down and talk to Ted Bundy, the serial killer, while he was on death row. So we're going to talk about that. That will be a full spoilers review. Speaking of spoilers reviews, we were off last week, but so we are going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to do full spoilers reviews of episodes 2 and 3 of What If, which are What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord and What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes. Recently, I believe it was last weekend, Cinemacon was taking place in Las Vegas. Sony did its big presentation, and they actually did a surprise screening of the new film Ghostbusters Afterlife. The feedback so far is really positive, so we'll go through a little bit of that. Of course, just the other day, Sony, speaking of Sony, also dropped the first teaser trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. I believe I've heard that it is now the most watched trailer of all time. I may want to fact check that. My buddy suggested that to me. So we're going to talk about that trailer a little bit. And then finally, we have one of our patented Andris discussion questions. Andris, do you want to sort of give us a little idea of what we're going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about real crime adaptations.
Okay.
We'll find out more soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
In an hour-ish and 30 minutes. You know, it depends.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes. So, of course, we want to, as always, encourage you guys, if you enjoy these podcasts, drop a like on the video, give it a share. It helps the video reach more people, helps the channel grow. We appreciate that very much. Of course, we also want to encourage you to jump into the comments and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about that we were talking about. I do read all the comments. I respond when I can, so don't think that your thoughts are going unread. And once again, we want to remind you that if you don't have time to watch a really long podcast video on YouTube, you can get audio-only versions of this podcast on places like Spotify and Google Podcasts. So we encourage you to do that as well. So we're going to start off with our review of No Man of God. As I said, this film stars Elijah Wood as Bill Hageman. I think it was something like that. Looks like Chris is looking it up.
So I got it.
Hagmeyer?
Hagmeyer. That's it.
Yeah.
Hagmeyer.
Bill
So
Hagmeyer.
Bill Hagmeyer. So he was an FBI profiler who would go in and talk to Ted Bundy to try and get, an idea of the mindset of somebody who could potentially become a serial killer. We also have Luke Kirby playing Ted Bundy. W. Earl Brown is in there. We also have Robert Patrick, the T-1000 himself, is in the film. Before we get into specifics, Andris, I'm going to throw it to you first. Other than you didn't hate it, what were your sort of overall impressions of this movie?
I liked it, but I felt it was a little uneven.
Okay.
That's my thoughts.
All right. Chris, what did you think?
I found this to be a pretty solid little movie. Like I said in the chat, everything is, how do I say it? It's not a great film, but everything is just solid. The direction is solid, not amazing. The acting is very good. The writing is solid. It's just like a nice kind of very contained. It's almost set entirely just within this interrogation room. And it's basically just like it's almost like a stage play in a way of just like two actors just kind of let loose. And yeah, for that, I really enjoyed it. Didn't overstay its welcome. So I was pleasantly surprised, considering I didn't even know this movie existed prior to this week.
Right. Yeah, I think I heard Elijah Wood on a podcast recently talking about it. I was like, that sounds interesting, because I said in my spoiler-free review, and if you guys want to see a spoiler-free review, it's on my channel. I'll do the thing with the thing. I'm kind of fascinated by serial killers, not that I want to be one or anything, but I'm always curious as to the dark places that the mind can go. It's a morbid curiosity that I have. And I think a lot of us do, because there are a lot of those, like in the 90s, they did like those direct to video movies about John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy. There was a whole slew of them. I remember renting them all from Blockbuster Video. Yeah, I will say I'm kind of with you guys. I liked this movie. I didn't think it was amazing or anything. It didn't knock my socks off, but I was mostly engaged the whole time. I felt it dragged a little bit in the mid part, because it's, even though I'm one to generally enjoy bottle movies, two guys talking for like an hour can get a little slow, and it did here for me a little bit. Then they introduced the ticking clock aspect, and then it kind of got right back on the rails for me. This is something I said in the spoiler-free review, and I want to sort of gauge your guys' thoughts. The whole most of the movie, I thought Elijah Wood was fine. He was good. He was perfectly adequate. He was doing what the script needed of him, but I kind of felt like he's not really being allowed to do much. He's just kind of being stoic and whatever. And then he's got two scenes towards the end of the movie. One is, of course, when he calls out Bundy shortly before Bundy's execution, when Bundy is sort of playing the victim, like, why is this happening to me? And he just calls him out and says, like, the parents of all of these children that you are not a fucking victim. Thought he was great in that scene. But the scene where Ted Bundy sort of takes him by the wrists and is explaining all of the killings that he did, and Elijah Wood is like, Hagmeyer is internalizing it. We even hear sort of a voiceover of him saying, like, I can see her curves, I can feel that, whatever. His performance in that scene, I thought, was like amazing. What did you guys think?
Very solid. He acted a lot with his eyes. It was fascinating what he could project without saying anything. Because when he's watching and just those clear, glassy blue eyes of his, you get this thing going on that was really good.
Yeah, he was solid throughout. For most of it, having to kind of play second fiddle to the much more kind of charismatic character that was Ted Bundy. But like you said, Court, that's just kind of by nature. Like, the script just kind of, that's what was required of that character, because he was an FBI agent that had to get information from Ted Bundy. And part of doing that was not treating him like a monster, not kind of showing that he thinks that he's insane, or even really kind of reacting to him. Like, he's got to almost kind of make him feel like buddy to an extent, which eventually does. Ted Bundy, at least in the film, is shown to kind of have a bit of an attachment to Bill, Elijah Wood's character, to kind of view him as a friend. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of heavy lifting for him to do. He was still solid, though, and I agree with Andris that, like, you could still kind of, like, you could gauge his feelings throughout the conversations, just kind of through his eyes in particular. But yeah, they thankfully let him off the chains a little bit and just let him go for it for a couple moments towards the end. Like you said, just this extreme close up of his face while he's listening to the details of the murders, and he's just crying and just like having like a meltdown. And then one of the more cathartic moments of the film of when he finally calls Ted Bundy out on his bullshit, because he's like, he's been treating him like a human this entire time, but it finally crossed the line of just like, you stop fucking acting like a victim, because holy shit, you're not.
Right.
So I thought it was very good performance from him.
And Elijah Wood has always been really good at acting with his eyes. I think part of that's because they're like this big.
Yeah.
But yeah, he really, you nailed it, Andris. Like, in that scene, it was all in the eyes. Like, he was kind of almost completely frozen, and it was just that. It was really impressive. Chris, I'll throw it to you first this time on this one. What did you think about Luke Kirby as Ted Bundy?
I've already been a big fan of Luke Kirby. He's in one of my favorite shows, The Marvelous Mrs Maisel, which is on Amazon, and I love that show. It's for anyone that doesn't know, it's essentially like kind of like a comedy drama set in 1960s about a woman trying to become a female comic, stand-up comic, and it's just really funny. It's so smartly written. But he actually plays real life comedian Lenny Bruce in
Oh,
that,
okay.
and does a spot on Lenny Bruce impression, and he's fantastic. So I've already been a big fan of him, and yeah, he is really great at just kind of like just sinking into these roles and what he does with his physicality in the same way that Elijah Wood, so much was conveyed through his eyes. Luke Kirby's his body posture and the way that he would move, and just kind of, he always seemed like uncomfortable, and I thought that was great. Because in addition, like, he has moments of kind of outbursts throughout, like more so than Elijah Wood's character, but even then he's still pretty much like kind of this quiet, kind of meticulous, calculating person, this character. Yeah, but so much was conveyed by just his weird body presence. Like, he just seems like this intimidating person that you don't want to be in a room with talking to.
And before I throw it to you, Andres, I did, because I don't know that much about Ted Bundy. So afterwards, and I probably should have put a VPN on before I did this, but after I watched the movie, I went and found, in the film we see that he does that interview with the priest. I went and found the actual footage, and there's something he's doing that Luke Kirby just nailed, where he's kind of like hunched over and looking up at the person that he's talking to. Like, that was like spot on. The mannerisms were spot on. The voice, not exact for me, but pretty close. And I also found out yesterday that Luke Kirby is from Hamilton, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half west of here. So that's kind of cool. Andres, yep.
Yes.
What did you think of the performance?
It was good. It was really good. He really managed to portray the predatory nature, the what's the word? Aside from predatory, just the ominous. Just, he really had that. He conveyed it well. My thing is, I don't know the actor too well, and I don't know Bundy too well, so I can't compare his performance to the real Ted Bundy. But based on what you guys are saying, it sounds like it's fairly accurate, aside from the voice, obviously. So yeah, he did really convey this sense of, like, he's completely shackled at the hands and the feet, but like, you still sense that danger, that there's something, there's very wrong with this guy. He's clearly very intelligent, and he reads people really, really well. That came across loud and clear to me. Did the Silence of the Lambs stand out as strongly to you guys as it did to me? Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard not to think of the comparison, but I actually, okay, how do I say this? So Silence of the Lambs is undoubtedly the better film, in most regards, in most areas. However, I'm glad that this film had a much more grounded approach when dealing with a real life serial killer, or a story about a real life serial killer. Because one of the things that I thought is that you take Hannibal Lecter, or Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. It's a fantastic performance. It's an like unforgettable character, but it's definitely treating it's definitely a movie serial killer, in the sense that he's hyper intelligent and he speaks like this, Clarice, and he's like, that's not a real person.
Yeah, he's like a super villain. Yeah.
Exactly. But you watch this movie, No Man of God, and it's much more. It's similar to the Netflix show Mindhunter, and it's similar to any real life interviews that you'll see with serial killers. Is that they're not monsters, and I'm not saying that in defense of them. I'm saying, like, they're not like literal monsters with fangs. They're people. And one of the kind of plot points of this movie, No Man of God, is for a little bit, is whether or not he's actually insane or not. Since we're in spoilers, he's not. And what they mean by that is that he's conscious of what he does, and
Right.
he's aware. And so, although, yeah, it's like similar, to Silence of the Lambs, and although it's not as good, I also appreciated that it wasn't like Ted Bundy's this mastermind, fucking super crazy, weird dude. He's just he's like a dude. You can have a conversation with him. He's cognizant. And so I appreciated that aspect of it, not painting him as like a super villain or as like some crazy person.
some person where you meet him and it's just like, yeah, no, this guy kills people. That's what, yeah, because yeah.
I'm not as into true crime as my wife. There seems to be, I've talked to her about this, and other friends that are women. There seems to be some fascination with women in true crime podcasts. That seems to be like the demographic. So she's major into true crime. And yeah, she was telling me, like, they kind of mentioned this woman's name in the movie, but she was telling me how there was this woman named Anne Rule, who wrote a pretty famous book about Ted Bundy, because she worked with Ted Bundy for years, and they weren't close or anything, but it was like she sat next to this guy, she talked to this guy, had lunch with this guy for years, and never suspected it at all. So and that just kind of, it fascinates me and it frightens me that someone could appear so normal that like you wouldn't even suspect it. Like, oh yeah, that's creepy.
Well, so I want to stay on Silence of the Lambs because there are a couple things I wanted to point out, but just quickly as an aside, because you were talking about that, there's that sequence in the sequence where he's doing the interview with the priest. There's that one long camera shot where it's centered on the woman in the room who's like a production assistant or something.
Yeah.
And it's slowly pushing on her. And what did you guys take from that scene? What did you guys think that scene was trying to suggest?
I couldn't figure it out, actually. I was like, was she a victim, or like, because that's almost what it felt like she knew something, but they never went anywhere with. I didn't know where they were trying to go with that.
Chris, what did you think?
To me, it was just showing how this person was being so emotionally and mentally kind of affected by being in the room with this like massive serial killer and listening to his details. I think that, so many other people were just like coming in and just kind of treating him like this is normal. A lot of people, are more squeamish, and she seems like a production assistant to some kind of like evangelical Christian guy. So she's probably not used to being in a room talking to murderers. So it took it on that level of just like, this is intense and she's kind of having a meltdown. But also, again, talking with my wife, I think that some women would be more emotionally affected by, say, if they were in the room listening with Ted Bundy, whose murders, I think, were almost exclusively women, and he would sexually assault them. I think it just would affect women maybe differently, or more in kind of like, it would just kind of touch more of a personal nerve. So that's what I took from it. Like just like this woman just being like, holy shit, I'm 5 feet away from this monster that did, all these terrible things to women just like me. And it was overwhelming. So I actually really enjoyed that scene.
It was an amazing shot. Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
That's a fair point. I wish they would have had like a follow-up with that. Just a throwaway line of, hey, are you okay? Or just something to, a follow-up, because it's just, yeah.
And see, that's kind of, that being her sort of motivation in that scene, that's where I ended up. But when the sequence, because by the end of the scene, she looks visibly upset, even though it was actually like, without a word, it was really amazing performance, because her face barely changes, but it goes from just sort of mild awareness of this guy to like absolute horror with barely changing at all. But at first the first impression that I got was that she was fascinated by this man, and maybe even attracted to this man, because like Ted Bundy was known for being like very gregarious, and people sort of liked being around him and whatever. So at the beginning of the scene, I thought that's what they were going for. Like, she was just like, oh, this guy. And then I realized it was going in a different direction, which probably better, but
yeah, she had tears in her eyes by the end. But what's great is that because there was no dialogue, it wasn't telling you this is exactly how she's feeling.
Right.
So it's like, you can kind of infer what you want from it, or you can infer nothing at all from it. It's just it's more kind of like a little cinematic Rorschach test of just like, what do you see, if anything? Because it doesn't have to be anything. So yeah, I enjoyed that part.
So back to this Silence of the Lambs thing. Now, I have read that the Silence of the Lambs novel was actually loosely based on, I don't think it was this particular profiler. I think there was another guy, I can't remember his name, but who went and talked to Ted Bundy. So that's kind of where the nut of the idea came from. So there were always going to be similarities, obviously. But there were a couple of things in this movie that were so specific that I couldn't help feeling like, can you guys like just tweak that line a little bit so it wouldn't be so obvious? Like, not even a line, but like the scene where Hagmeyer first gets to the prison and he's talking to the warden played by W. Earl Brown. And he's like, he's not going to talk to you. And of course we know he's going to, but you know, Dr. Chilton in Silence of the Lambs basically says that. And then he actually says the line like, he'll toy with you. That's a line straight out of Silence of the Lambs. And then, you know, it's the quid pro quo. You tell me things, I tell you things. They don't say that, but it's the same thing. And then the thing that I found really striking, and maybe it's true, maybe this is direct out of the transcripts, but I mean, again, they could have changed it. But when Hagmeyer is telling the story about his alcoholic father and being in the basement with the rat, and the father kills the rat, and then there was silence, and I was like, okay, so it was a traumatic story from childhood involving an animal that ended with silence. It's getting a little bit much for me right now. Did that stand out to you guys, or am I just crazy?
Did you stop the screaming of the rats?
Right? The squeaking of the rats?
The squeaking.
As dumb as it sounds, I didn't make that connection until you just said it, which is dumb because yeah, it's the movie's called The Silence of the Lambs, and it's based off the story that Clarice says about the lambs, and similar to Bill or Elijah Wood's character. I suppose. I guess it's again like it's one of those things where if it was in the transcripts, which I'm not sure if it was, because I think that they might have turned off the tapes at that point. If it was in the transcripts, then I'd say, yeah, it's keep it, because even if it's like, well, it's similar to Silence of the Lambs, I'm like, yeah, but if it actually happened, then keep it. And maybe but if it wasn't, then it's like, yeah, how did no one else, like if you're able to pick that up like right away, and if as soon as someone like kind of points the connection, I see it immediately. I don't understand how someone kind of like doing like kind of a script pass wasn't like, can we just tweak this a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you.
And I'm not even saying it's bad. I just, it was like 10 minutes of the movie where it was just kind of distracting because I kept noticing these things and it was just kind of taking me out of the moment. Another moment that completely took me out, and I mean, it's just funny. All you had to do was reverse the names and it wouldn't have even been a thing. But Bundy is saying like, they could make a movie about us, like a Bill and Ted movie. And I was like, I had that little moment of like, a Bill and Ted movie. What? Oh, right. Cause his name. Gotcha. But my brain just went to Bill and Ted. So that was funny.
Yeah. Wild. It felt like it was, I think that was a bit anachronistic. Cause I think that I took that initially as like intentional, like he was making an intentional reference.
Oh, okay.
But I think that moment, because this spans over a few years, like from 1986 through 1989. I think that happened before Bill and Ted was even a thing. So if it was intentional on the writer's part, I think they just got the dates wrong, because it was like this was set in 1986 and Bill and Ted didn't come out until like 1989. But yeah, so. I mean, it made me think immediately. It's like, how can you not think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? But I don't know if that was intentional or not. I thought it was.
Okay.
Maybe it was a Nolan-esque Easter egg because they're gonna make a sequel where Bill and Ted go back in time and get Ted Bundy.
Yeah, that was the post-credit thing. Just Keanu Reeves showed up.
Bill and Ted perform an execution.
Exactly.
Yes.
Just as a completely random, just because we're talking about Bill and Ted. So all three Bill and Ted movies were written by the same two guys. Did you guys know that one of them is the son of the horror author Richard Matheson?
I did not
know.
I found that out recently. Blew my mind. The guy who wrote like I Am Legend and What Dreams May Come and all that stuff.
Shit. Like, okay.
Yeah, crazy. Blew my mind. In fact, I think they were on Conan O'Brien interviewed them or something, or maybe it's Kevin Smith, but they were talking about when they originally came up with the characters of Bill and Ted. I'm going off on a crazy tangent here. It was something they would do in like improv classes. They decided to make a movie, and it was going to be like a kind of a sketch comedy movie with all these little different bits. And then Richard Matheson said, why don't you just make a whole movie about Bill and Ted? And there you have it. So That's cool.
Legends were born.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys, is there anything else you guys want to say about No Man of God? Should we move on? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up some negatives, and there's nothing really that like, there's no like nothing big that's glaring. It's just something I noticed was how I mentioned in the beginning that like the acting was very good, but like not like Oscar worthy. So there's no real complaints there. The writing was good, but again, not like Oscar worthy. There was very few moments that really kind of stood out. I'm like, oh, that's a really good line or anything like that. It was just like, I was compelled. I was interested in their conversations throughout. Although, like you were saying, Court, I think that it definitely picked up momentum and had more weight throughout as the film went on. I think the biggest thing for me was the direction at times was a bit inconsistent. Like there were times when I thought that the direction by, sorry, now I'm on Bill and Ted. Damn it. Okay. I just had it up because I was going to say it. The direction by Amber Seeley, and I've not seen her other work before. There were times when I thought that it was quite good. We brought up the example of where it was kind of this slow, unbroken push in of this woman, unnamed woman, just kind of listening in on Ted Bundy's conversations, and something like that was great. Or the weird kind of kaleidoscopic kind of like sensory overload scene towards the end of when Ted is bringing him underwater and telling him the stories. I thought those were very good and they stood out, but a lot of it felt kind of basic, especially in a lot of the first half when they were having these interviews. I kept noticing that both of them were mostly kind of shot in kind of like these medium close-ups. So you kind of get their torsos up, and that's fine. Gets their face, gets most of their body, but they would just kind of cut every single time each one of them was talking. So the editing felt predictable. But not only that, they went from like, okay, we're like slightly from this angle, then we're going to push in, then we're going to dolly out this way. So every time they cut, the camera was moving, but it felt aimless. It just felt like, well, they're talking for so long, so we have to have movement, otherwise it's going to be boring. But it didn't feel purposeful. And for me, usually this, there's no official rule book but for me, good direction is when there is a plan, when everything from the composition to camera movements to editing feels intentional, like this has a purpose. But it really just felt like for the first half, they just kind of filmed the scene from multiple different angles, and they're just like, we'll just kind of figure it out in editing. So to me, it's not bad. It doesn't doesn't make it a bad movie, but it just makes it feel like that's kind of basic filmmaking, basic direction to me. So that, like, I think, go ahead.
Like a lack of confidence on the film's presentation.
Yeah, a lack of confidence is a lack of vision in the sense of like, I don't have a specific way that I want to tell this story. Let's just get as much coverage as possible. We'll figure it out in post. And again, you get a coherent story and it still works, but it's what holds good films back from being great, I think. And also it's like, to compare it to Silence of the Lambs, part of the reason why that's like a great film is the way Jonathan Demme shoots those scenes between Clarice and Hannibal Lecter, and the way that the camera barely moves, and when it does, it's for a purpose, and it barely cuts, and when it does, it's for a purpose. That's great direction versus here, just serviceable direction.
I was gonna say, when you were talking about like the edit or the shots and the editing, I was kind of thinking something I've always thought about, like a cool camera angle, a cool shot is cool, looks cool, awesome. But a cool shot that has some kind of narrative reasoning or purpose behind it is so much more interesting, Like if it's a weird shot that in some way puts you into a character's mindset or whatever it is, like that goes a long way for me. And you're right, this movie didn't have much of that.
Yeah.
Did you have any other negatives you want to bring up, or you, Andris?
I've got things.
Yeah, okay. Go for it. Go for it.
One positive, I will make a positive first. The music, I don't know if you guys noticed, the score was so perfectly period perfect with just these lush synthesizer pads, and it was very 80s and very nice. I was like trying not to. I wanted to look up and see what kind of synthesizers the guy used because I'm a synth nut, but I was like, no, we're watching a movie. This is not go to, don't do that. So it was very nice. My one thing, when I think about historical films that handle historical topics, the two that always come up in my mind that are great are JFK and Zodiac. And what makes those two films really great is the fact that you feel like you understand what happened. You get a good idea. I felt like, I might have been looking for the wrong thing with this film, but I had to go to Wikipedia afterwards because I was like, I don't know who Ted Bundy is.
Yeah.
He's a predatory, evil, horrible man who did horrible things. But I felt, but once again, as I said, I didn't know what the intention of this film was. So I was like, well, but that was my issue with it.
Yeah, it definitely feels, Court, let me know if you agree, but it definitely does feel like a movie that is geared more towards people who already kind of know a bit about Ted Bundy.
Oh, for
like
sure.
if like as opposed to Zodiac, which is like a very comprehensive, like if you know nothing about Zodiac, you can come out of that movie by David Fincher and know a shit ton.
Yeah.
For this movie, if you don't know anything about Ted Bundy, I think you're going to be kind of lost. Like you can understand he's a serial killer, you can get the context, but there's a lot of the minutia and the details that the film's not interested in.
Yeah, it completely glosses it over in favor of just conveying him and these people, and which yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like it's a recommendation from all of us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out there too. I would love to see this as a stage play. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is two very meaty roles for actors, and I think this would work just as well on the stage.
All right. So we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the most recent 2 episodes of Marvel's What If. I just got around to watching them today. So first off, we'll talk about episode 2. What if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? I will go first and say, of the 3, this one is my favorite. As you guys may remember, wasn't a big fan of the first episode with the Peggy Carter becoming Captain America. I felt it was like such a retread. I guess this one was as well kind of a retread of Guardians, but I guess I don't remember the first Guardians. I've only seen it once, so I don't remember it as well. So that didn't stand out to me as much. It was also nice to hear Chadwick Boseman's voice one last time. And I did, at the very end, I did get chills when it said, like, in memory of our friend, our inspiration, our hero, Chadwick Boseman. That was a really, really nice touch. Before we get into specifics, Andris, how did you feel about this episode overall, and how would you rank it amongst the 3?
It was my least favorite, actually.
Okay.
I feel like they're at this point in the series, they still don't know what they're doing with this concept of what if, because this one, yes, they took it in different directions than just a retread of Captain America. But I was like, but why him? It's just, I don't know. I'm still, with this episode, I'm still not necessarily on board with the idea of this series.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, this show's just not for me. Like, I'm just really not, it's just not clicking for me. And I don't even think that it's terrible by any means. It just kind of skews a little too young for me. So even with the second episode, there's some positive things about it. It's like you said, the tribute to Chadwick Boseman, it's hard not to get choked up about that. He's a phenomenal actor, not just in the few Marvel things he's done, but if you've seen any of his work, he was such a talented man. Well, this second episode with T'Challa was not like a beat for beat retread of Guardians, the way that the first episode was a beat for beat retread of Captain America. So I'll give it that, but it just doesn't do it for me. Like, I still find the animation to be weird. Like I said, there's certain moments where you could kind of like pause it, and if it was like a comic panel, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. I like the artwork. I like the coloring, especially. I think the coloring is very good in this episode. A lot of rich purples and blues. But the animation just looks awkward. It just looks weird, and I can't get into it. And the humor, I know this is an overused word, so I won't say cringy, but I'm being honest. I literally wince every time they make a joke. They're just a joke. I'm just like, Like I just for if anyone's just listening to this, that's just me scrunching up my face. And I'm not doing it to be a dick. Like I go in open-minded and it's just like Ravada never flies solo. Nobody shows up. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. It's not funny. Thanos is weird and okay, and I'm jumping ahead, but I don't know. Also, spoiler for episode 3. This show's not my bag. Like, I find it like a slog to get through.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add, episode 2 in particular so far has been the most Saturday morning cartoon we've gotten of the 3 so far.
Yeah.
It is so hard into Saturday morning cartoon territory. Where just I was like, who is this for? I don't know.
Because we talked about the last time we were there. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Court, but I just want to say that like I agree that it's like it simultaneously feels like it skews towards younger kids. But then there's certain lines and certain things that happen that it's like, well, that's a little too intense for like 5 or 6 year olds. So who is this for? Because I can imagine even being like 12. If I was 12 and watching this, I would still kind of be like, well, that's corny. It's just very corny, and I don't know what age this is for.
Yeah, like I said, this episode was my favorite of the 3. Still not digging this show. I'm still not feeling. If you guys want to stop talking about it on the podcast, I'm okay with that, because both of these episodes, they feel like they're an hour long and they're like 30 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife watched the second one with me before it was almost over. Like I paused it. And it was like, it's 30 minutes. And she was like, oh my God, I felt like this has been going on for like forever. And yeah, she did not want to watch the 3rd episode with me. She likes the Marvel stuff too. And she was just like, this is boring and it's just cringy. And I just don't care.
I will say that one thing I liked about this episode, visually, I thought it was beautiful, just because you have Wakanda, which looks cool. And then they're out in the cosmos, which is gorgeous. I liked that. The humor in this one didn't bother me as much as it did in the first episode. Like there were some bad jokes, like the one you mentioned, Chris, but like for me, it never got to the line of like, okay, who ordered the calamari? Like it never quite got that bad. That one made me wince for sure.
I forgot that line until you said it again.
Never forget. I will say I had a little bit of fun with this whole kind of team they put together, because it's just sort of recontextualizes a lot of characters that I got some fun out of seeing Thanos kind of being a good guy, kind of being a good old boy. He's on the team. I had some fun with that. But again, overall, like I just don't care.
I mean, I don't care either. And I will, just one thing I want to say about Thanos before I throw it over to you, Andris, was just that it feels like for a movie villain from a big franchise, let's say Star Wars, I feel like at least there had been some time between the original trilogy and let's say maybe the 90s when they started being like, Darth Vader's fun and wacky, let's make fun of him, like just kind of like, just making him like, I know there's always been toys about it, but like him showing up in cartoons and just corny video games, stuff like that. What I'm getting at is that Thanos was like the big bad for the entire series up until 2019, and he was supposed to be threatening. And then in this, especially even to get Josh Brolin back to actually voice him, and just to him to be like, I'm petting dogs or whatever the fuck now. It's like, dude, it's been barely a minute since Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and we're already just like taking the piss out of Thanos. It's like, what are we doing?
Not just that though. It's the fact that even though he's being played as a good guy, he's still actively talking about his genocide idea. Right. And people are laughing about it like, oh, you wacky man. It's like, we're talking about galactic genocide here, folks. That's not something you should be like, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
About, it's like, no.
I get that. And Chris, I get your point too, as well. For me, I guess the show is just so kind of out there that I was able to sort of divorce the two and just be like, okay, this is goofy Saturday morning Thanos. Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me, you're definitely too young for this, Chris, but
How dare you.
Andris, do you remember the Beetlejuice cartoon?
Yes, I do.
So Beetlejuice in the movie is like an evil dude. And in the
Yeah.
cartoon, he's Lydia's like best friend. He's just a kind of trickster, goofy. That's
know-
kind of how I saw Thanos in this one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, now that you've mentioned that, this is a bit of a throwback to that weird era of the 90s where all of a sudden we had like rated R properties getting cartoons like the RoboCop cartoon and like action figures for the Aliens franchise. This is
No,
like
that's
a
a fair
throwback
point.
to that.
That's
It's
a
a
fair point.
throwback, but it's like we were uncomfortable then if we thought about it for too long. So
Yeah.
I had a wicked action figure of the Queen alien, and I had a little like a Nike pump thing at the back of its head that would like pop out the little extra mouth.
Oh, dope.
Awesome.
that is
That's
slick.
pretty cool.
It was awesome.
I want
The
that
90s.
now.
The 90s were awesome in
Mhm.
certain regards, even if you think about things and go, wait a minute.
Why? Why did we do that?
I will also say this, because we still have a lot to talk about, so I think we should sort of breeze through this in the next episode quick because we got to get to a couple other things. But I will say this, maybe it's going to make me sound like a pig. I don't care.
Oh, snap.
I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Hot takes coming in. Hot takes coming in.
You're talking about Hot Nebula, right?
Karen Gillan is really hot, even as a cartoon. That breathy voice she does, it's kind of like not quite Jessica Rabbit, but I mean, oh my gosh.
Well, the maybe not the voice, but it was funny. I mean, I love Karen Gillan, big Doctor Who fan. I know. Sorry, Andris.
It's okay.
I like at the very least the revival seasons up through series 5. I really like the first season with Matt Smith. I apologize.
That's okay. I am more lenient on season 5. It only started the train wreck that happened.
Okay, it wasn't fully wrecked, but yeah, that's I've really liked her as an actress since then, and yeah, she's like lovely and gorgeous, and she's very talented and a very good voice actress. Actually, we were talking about how Sebastian Stan doesn't seem to be a voice actor. Karen Gillan, at the very least, it's like, yeah, I can see her doing some voice work. But yeah, just that design, I thought it was kind of funny. That was like the one, because it wasn't like they didn't linger on the joke. It was more just kind of like a visual gag of like, here she is, not in like bald with a weird junk trader kind of like an outfit. She's like in a sparkly dress and she has like flowing hair and stuff. So they definitely try to Jessica Rabbit her for sure. So I'm right there with you.
Totally. All right, shall we just quickly breeze through the next episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's time, yes.
There was so much disdain there. Yeah.
I have some positives for this one.
Okay. So
I do too.
Okay. So episode 3 was called What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? And the basic premise of this one is Nick Fury is trying to put together the Avengers Initiative, and somehow all of the people keep dying. So Tony Stark dies, Bruce Banner dies, Clint Barton dies. Who else?
Spoilers.
Thor dies. These are all spoilers. These are all hard spoilers. I said it off the top. We're good. And they got to figure out who did it.
Who done it?
We have a surprising amount of returning voice cast in this one as well. Of course, you have Sam Jackson. I'm not sure if that was Clint Barton.
I think it was.
It was Jeremy Renner.
Was it okay? It did sound a lot like him, so I forgot to look that one up. But we also had, turns out at the end of the episode, the person doing the killings is Hank Pym, because Hope Van Dyne died on a SHIELD mission, so he's on revenge. I don't think Thor had any lines, so there's that. But like,
no, he just he grunted and went aha, and then died.
And looked pretty apparently.
Looked pretty.
But I forget the actor's name, but Agent Coulson, that was him. Voice actor Lake Bell was doing Natasha Romanoff, which I thought in certain moments sounded like spot on. Other times you could tell it was absolutely a different person.
Yeah, you could tell she was putting it. At times it felt kind of natural, and then other times it felt like she was trying too hard to do like a Scarlett Johansson impression. And yeah, it kind of took me out of it.
Okay, so Chris, you said you had some positives. Why don't we start there?
I suppose as far as the plot goes for this one, it unlike the other two, like it definitely was not a beat for beat of anything. I mean, they definitely pulled exact scenes and like recreated like exact moments from a multitude of the Marvel films, but plot wise it was kind of it's a new thing, so I appreciated that, and I appreciated that it was kind of like this whodunit. So I kind of like that. And there were some surprising moments in it, like especially the way that Hulk died. This kind of goes away into what I was talking about, where I'm like, I don't know what age demographic this is for.
Yeah.
But I kind of
thought that
liked
too.
it. I mean, I was of two minds, where like, because when he exploded, it wasn't bloody, but he just popped like a green balloon. And even though it was all green, I'm like, that's pretty fucking violent. So I got a kick out of that. But at the same time, I was also like, who is this for again? Because again, this one also I felt like really doubled down on just the cringy jokes. Everything about Agent Coulson just being in love with everybody from Thor to whoever to Captain America. Like his password is like Steve Rogers 69 or something like that. Something not obviously it wasn't
Steve.
I heart Steve or something.
Yeah.
Hashtag something Steve. Yeah.
And it's like hilarious. Oh, his hair is so great. And then Jeremy Renner is like, yeah, his hair is pretty great.
Smells like lavender.
Smells like lavender.
And the weird thing is, they've pulled like basically the same joke with Thor in, I think it was Infinity War, when Drax is calling him like a pirate angel or whatever and talking about his muscles. But it worked there, and it was genuinely funny there.
Yeah, it was funny there because it was better delivery, and also because it's like who's saying it. Like Drax is kind of like this out of touch alien dude, as opposed to like Agent Coulson, who we already know is like, it's just like a dude. He's just like a guy.
He's a man, agent man.
And also we had Star-Lord. We had Chris Pratt's character just kind of reacting to Drax in that situation, just kind of like, what? Like, so that was funny. And here it wasn't. It was just like, it's honestly, like I'm not throwing shade or anything, but it really was just kind of like, Agent Coulson's kind of gay. And I'm like, why is that funny? Why? Like, I don't get it. Yeah.
I mean, Thor's pretty hot, but I mean, come on now.
But why is that funny just to say it?
Yeah.
Like his hair is so pretty. Like
it's Saturday morning cartoon jokes.
Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoon jokes where it's like, oh look, guys saying it's pretty.
So maybe I don't know. I really wish I could have been like. I wish if I'd seen this. I want to know what 8-year-old Chris would have thought about this show. I mean, obviously, I think the younger I was, the more I would have liked it. But I wonder if I still would have found it kind of corny, because there were shows even when I was a kid where I was like, oh, well, that's kind of weird.
Well, you got to ask yourself at the same time, though, would 8-year-olds like this? Because they like the Avengers, and here's an episode where they're getting systematically killed off on screen. Yeah. That's horrifying. Yeah. And once again, it's like, wait, who is this for? Because you can't show that to kids.
Yeah.
That's the heroes, Yeah, no, for me personally, I liked this one the most out of the three because it just, as you said, it went in a completely different direction. It wasn't a retread. It actually, up until we found out who was doing the killings, was compelling and interesting. But yeah.
Did you guys peg who it was kind of early on or no?
I was getting ideas, but I was like, but Paul Rudd doesn't exist yet in this universe. I was like, okay, nanobots, small, like, okay, I think I see what's happening, but I don't remember him. Was Michael Douglas's character still doing the suit thing at that point?
Well, he had the technology at that point, I suppose.
I liked his character design, how they had him like really spindly and furry. I don't know. I dug that when you got the reveal. And of course, Michael Douglas was back, I should say, as well.
That was the biggest surprise, even more than the reveal. I looked up, I was like, holy shit, this is actually Michael Douglas doing this stupid cartoon.
My big thing though is like, okay, what's his motivation is revenge, but why now? That's where it kind of lost me, because I'm like, the character died, or his daughter died. Okay, why now? Why you know what I'm saying? Like his
Well,
character's motivation, I didn't get it, and that's where it kind of lost me.
Didn't they mention something about that though? Like, wasn't it?
They tried to, but I was just like, I wasn't buying it because I was
Okay.
like, why wouldn't he have done this earlier? Why, like, was he privy to them hiring Avengers? Or, you know, it's like, it's one of those things where you start thinking about it and you're like, oh no, the story is unraveling in front of you now.
Right.
Yeah, that's again where it gets kind of Saturday morning cartoon, where it's like if you think about the logistics, it's like, okay, what is the timeline? When did Hope get recruited, and when did
Yeah.
she die? And after that point, how did he get access to everything about the Avengers? It's one of those things where it's again, it's like if you're a kid, you're not really thinking about it. Yeah, as far as the mystery goes, I think pretty early on I pegged that they were using the Ant-Man technology. But for some reason, I wasn't thinking that it was Hank Pym. I was also like, wait, is this the bad guy, Yellow Jacket, whatever his name is from the first Ant-Man? Is this Paul Rudd? Is this Evangeline Lilly's character? So I especially when like Betty Ross, the Hulk's girlfriend, when she was like looking at, I don't know what it was, the needle, and she's like, it looks like something burst out of it. I'm like, oh, it's that Ant-Man tech. But I will say this, I didn't immediately go Hank Pym. So kudos in that regard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I gotta say, on the note of the Betty Ross scene, were you guys uncomfortable with them taking the Incredible Hulk story, which had Edward Norton, and switching it over with Mark Ruffalo? Did that guy make you guys uncomfortable?
Didn't make me uncomfortable, but I definitely like noticed it.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable wouldn't be the word, but I immediately was just like, well, that's weird. They're just kind of retconning the Edward Norton shit with a character voiced and looking now like Mark Ruffalo. So
it made me uncomfortable because I was like, oh, I guess this isn't the multiverse after all.
Well, and I just like as well the building where that scene is shot. Like I believe it's University of Toronto because that whole movie was shot in Toronto. So seeing it in animated form, I got a little bit of a kick out of that. That was cool.
Captain Canada strikes again.
As I do. Yeah, so I think we're all kind of on the same page. This is just not a show for us.
Yeah.
It's gotten better-ish, but the fact that it's so disjointed, and it was like episode 1, not for kids, episode 2, totally for kids, episode 3, here's a guy killing people. You're like, if we knew who the demographic was intended, you know, if we knew the answer, then I think we might be a more comfortable with the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So I probably wouldn't check. Here's the thing. As dumb as always, take 2. Okay. Although I was complaining a lot about what demographic this is for, I think the only one that I might be interested in checking out again is the Marvel Zombies thing, because that's actually like one of the few what if comics that I've actually read. I don't remember anything from it, but unlike you, Court, I like zombies a lot, even though they are very oversaturated in pop culture at this point. I'm like, that's kind of fun, but again, I'm keeping my expectations low for that episode, so I might check back in for when it's like zombie Captain America or zombie Iron Man. That might be fun.
I could see myself doing that as well, but otherwise, it's a slog.
Mm-hmm.
I could join you guys for that one.
Yeah,
I'd be interested in that.
You heard it here first, folks. We're not watching this show until they.
Sorry, we've tapped out. I've tapped out of the first. I didn't even give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a chance or anything, and I don't really think that the Defenders stuff on Netflix counted. But as far as like official MCU stuff overseen by Kevin Feige, this is the first one I'm tapping out of.
Yeah, me too. All right, so we're gonna move on. We won't take too much time on this, but as I mentioned during Cinemacon in Las Vegas last week, Sony did their presentation, and it included a surprise screening of the brand new, I guess it's technically Ghostbusters 3. I mean, it takes place in the same universe, in the same timeline, what have you.
It's a sequel.
Yeah. So this film is directed by Jason Reitman, who of course is the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the first 2. I don't remember if Ivan Reitman was, do you guys remember if he was involved in the 2016, like maybe in a producer?
I mean, he might have had a producer credit, but I don't think that he's really involved.
Right.
Yeah, it was one of those surface level. Oh, he's a producer, sure. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's let this man make this terrible Ghostbusters film.
No, and I think it's cool that like the son of the guy who made the original movie is doing it. I've seen a couple Jason Reitman movies that I liked a lot. Thank You for Smoking was one. Up in the Air was really good. So I'm looking forward to this. I love the first Ghostbusters, like most people. Like most people, I don't love the second Ghostbusters. It's okay. It's still Ghostbusters, but
Yeah,
whatever.
You didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it. No, it's all right. And I wasn't a big fan of the 2016 one at all. But so I've been looking forward to this. I think it's another one of those movies that because of COVID just kind of got pushed and pushed. I think it's been completed for quite some time. Of course, the movie stars Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things and the It movies. You have McKenna Grace, who was in
Something.
Haunting of Hill House.
Shows and movies.
She's been in a bunch of stuff, actually. She's really talented, but I really liked her in Haunting of Hill House. She was young Theo, I believe.
Those are words. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. Those my concerned whimpering of like, who was she in that show?
I thought somebody was talking in the background of one of your mics. I was like, oh.
I'm a ventriloquist now.
And then, of course, we have Paul Rudd, who I'm always happy to see. So they did a screening and...
those lucky bastards.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't even know it was coming. They were just like, apparently Jason Reitman was talking. He's like, now, please don't spoil the ending. And when I say that, it's because we're going to show you the movie right now. And then the lights went down and people freaked out.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. So I'm just going to go through a few things. Entertainment Weekly just sort of curated a bunch of tweets from people who are there. There are no spoilers here, so don't worry about that. But Lauren Huff, who is from Entertainment Weekly, wrote, Ghostbusters fans are going to be thrilled with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm afraid to say much more than that, but there's a lot to love. Easter eggs and nostalgia fill just about every frame, but the story still manages to feel fresh and new. The Raps, Beatrice Verhoeven. I was pleasantly surprised by Ghostbusters Afterlife. Really like this, really great story, and I actually cackled a lot. Scott Menzel from the Hollywood Critics Association writes, Ghostbusters Afterlife is the Ghostbusters sequel that I've been waiting all my life to see. It is nostalgia done right, a perfect blend of classic Ghostbusters moments with a fresh, unique twist for a whole new generation to enjoy. I got goosebumps. And then finally, we have Josh Gad. That's good. I like that. What a wasted opportunity, Scott Menzel. And finally, Josh Gad, who during the pandemic, he was doing that show on his YouTube channel where he was like reuniting casts of movies on Zoom calls. And he did some of the Ghostbusters cast. So yeah, I guess he got to see it. And he wrote, having seen this movie, I can confirm that it is everything you've been waiting for and so much more. Also, bring tissues. So.
Ooh, it's going to get erotic.
Apparently.
Yeah, bring a sock, please.
Always expect Andris to go there. What do you guys think of these comments? I know it's a handful of people. Mm-hmm. I'm sure when it gets a wide release, it won't be as thoroughly gushing. But what do you guys think from that?
Andris, you want to go first?
Sure, I will go first. Based on what we're hearing, it sounds like they got it this time. My only issue is the fact that it seems like this is a classic Sony thing. They put a movie out, nobody likes it, they learn their lesson, and then they get it right the second time. And it's like, why didn't you get it right the first time?
Right.
Because it's like Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man happened. Oh. And then we got Disney's Spider-Man, which was a joint venture, and it was wonderful. And now it's like, we got this terrible Ghostbusters, and now we're getting this great one. And it's like, well, get it right the first time. You guys are trying to make movies. Get it right.
Chris?
Yeah. No, this makes me excited. I have been looking forward to this one even before any kind of promotional things came out. Just hearing that Jason Reitman, who is an actual filmmaker, it was attached to it. Not just that there's the added bonus that he's the actual son of Ivan Reitman, but he's a proper filmmaker. And regardless of what, you know, there's a lot of things wrong with the 2016 Ghostbusters.
Paul
But
Feig, that was his name.
That's exactly what I was going to go to, is that to me, I think the biggest thing, it's not that it's a reboot. It's not that it has 4 women. That's not the issue. The issue is that it's Paul Feig. It's Paul Feig writing, in quotes, and directing. And he's not a director. I mean, that sounds shitty because by literal definitions he is, but he's just he's a TV guy, and all.
He's the wrong director for this type of film.
Yeah, it's just all of his movies just feel like TV shows. They feel like sitcoms with a lot like basic flat lighting and basic coverage, and he doesn't give a shit about the scripts.
Improvisational.
It's just improvisations, and that works sometimes, but to make an entire movie about improvisation, it rarely works the entire time. And the original, good.
Sorry, let me just interject. To your point, the film he made after Ghostbusters, I'm trying to remember what it was called.
A Simple Favor?
A Simple Favor, something like that. I quite liked that movie, and I think a lot of that is because it wasn't all improvised. I think he stuck to the screenplay.
Yeah.
That was a pretty decent little thriller.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie, and like you said, because it stuck. It wasn't him doing a TV sitcom comedy,
right?
Where everyone it actually had an actual script. I'm sure there were some lines of improvisation there, but you can really tell when it's like, oh, mostly scripted with some improv, as opposed to everything is improv. And here's the thing: a lot of people don't like to admit it, but the first Ghostbusters was mostly scripted. There was some improv, absolutely,
of
but
course.
Some of the best lines, some of the most memorable lines, were scripted, and just to deviate from that entirely defeats the purpose. And again, Feig is not a visual director. He just put it here. Everybody's in frame. What's the lighting like? Well, everything's well lit from the background to the foreground. Fuck it. Jason Reitman is a proper filmmaker, and you could tell from the trailers, especially the most recent one. This is again the difference between someone who's just like, get as much coverage as you want, we'll figure it out in post, like Paul Feig, and Jason Reitman, who's like, no, I have a vision for this, and this is what, the trailers were giving me, the most recent one was actually giving me a very Amblin vibe, a very Spielberg vibe.
I could totally see that, yeah.
Oh yeah,
which is different than the feeling of the first Ghostbusters, but it works. It feels like it doesn't feel like a TV sitcom. It feels like a movie.
It also, it's a Sonyism, is where they like to throw as much CG, ridiculously colorful, over the top shit at you. Mm-hmm. And this, you're not getting that.
It doesn't look like that. No, I mean, there's clearly CGI. But
it's more pulled back and scaled back, and more like it's in service of the film, instead of like, hey, let's make this the most visually overwhelming film you've ever seen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I was already looking forward to it, and that now that it's screened, a lot of people have a lot of positive things to say about it. It's gotten my hopes up. It's gotten me excited to actually finally see this.
Andris, you looking forward to this one?
Oh, absolutely. This is
Yeah, I'm there with you guys. I mean, when they announced who was in it, who was making it, I was like, okay, that feels like a good recipe right there. Started seeing the trailers. I'm like, all right, it's sounding good. And then hearing this, awesome. I'm psyched. We all three of us could end up hating this fucking movie, but
definitely.
But I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure when it comes out off the top of my head. I probably should have looked that up.
It says November 11th, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Pandemic impending.
Right. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to that. We were going to move on quickly and talk about the first teaser trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home.
There you go.
It's a cool shirt. It's actually like embossed, or it's like raised. It's neat. Anyway, this trailer came out a couple days ago. People are freaking out about it. Before we get into specifics, we're going to spoil the trailer, which doesn't really even make sense.
Go see the trailer, kids. Come on,
kids.
Chris, overall impressions of this trailer. Did you like it? Did you hate it?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I was already on board for this. This just felt like a teaser trailer. I was like, I think like a lot of people, what would have sent me through the roof is seeing Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. Even though I didn't really enjoy his films, I thought that he was good in the role. and Tom Holland altogether. If we get a shot, I just need to see one shot of all three of them in costume standing next to each other, and I'm on board. So I liked the trailer. I didn't lose my mind. I didn't get like super crazy excited about it, but I can understand the hype because this is pretty ambitious. I can't think of another example where they've had a multiverse like this, where they've pulled in two completely separate film franchises of the same character, but then bringing them back in, with they haven't confirmed it yet, but they're bringing back Alfred Molina. That's confirmed. They have Jamie Foxx from The Amazing Spider-Man. That's confirmed. Willem Dafoe. Jamie Foxx is great.
Yeah.
The problem is not him. The problem was the writing and the direction. The problem is not him.
That's what I'm saying, though.
No, but
bringing back Electro.
But they're different. It's different writers, different directors. That would be like saying, oh no, Robert De Niro's in a new movie. I saw him in Rocky and Bullwinkle. So it's all about the writing and the direction.
On the other hand, it's bringing back Jamie Foxx as that version of Electro.
I'm telling you, it's writing and direction. I guarantee you, he's not going to be doing the same thing. And they already said that he's not going to be in like the blue face or whatever the fuck they were doing with that. Oh god. Yeah. We'll see. My point is that they're doing the multiverse thing, and that's pretty ambitious. And so I've already been excited. The trailer looks fine. It's a teaser. It's just kind of letting you know, like, oh, you recognize that. You recognize that pumpkin bomb. You recognize that laugh. You recognize that tentacle octopus man. So yeah, what'd you guys think?
What's that? Chris, you and I have talked about that South Park documentary. There's a part where Trey Parker's just like, oh, what does he say for a movie trailer? Like, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you. Go see it or whatever. Yeah, got a little bit of that from this trailer. Yeah, you're gonna go see it.
Yeah, like you don't need to see shit. Go fucking watch your movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Andris, thoughts?
It looks good. It looks fun. It's ambitious. I don't know if using Spider-Man as a vehicle to launch a multiverse is necessarily the best way to launch a multiverse. It's like, I get like, they're like, well, how do we fix this problem of everybody knows Spider-Man? Mm-hmm. I feel like they should have like a multiverse film. It's weird to have it piggyback on it like that. But I mean, on the other hand, it is kind of tricky to be like, how do you reverse? Even though my biggest issue is it's like, I kind of feel like doing that, like, oh shit, everybody knows who Peter Parker is. I feel like they should have done a full film where they actually explored this idea, like, because that's ambitious. That's like when Iron Man revealed his identity. They explored that. Here it's like, well, let's go to Doctor Strange and reverse it now. Like, wait, let's, but that being said, I don't think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's exciting. But those are my qualms, if you will. Yes.
I feel it.
I thought it looked visually pretty cool, particularly when Doctor Strange is doing all that crazy Doctor Strange stuff. Yeah. The Inception kind of shit. I liked that. It was cool seeing Alfred Molina back. Hearing the Willem Dafoe cackle. I really hope Willem Dafoe doesn't look as ridiculous this time around.
You don't want the Power Rangers suit to come back?
Yeah, they got to update that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, literally, my main man, Weird Al Yankovic, he did a parody of Billy Joel's Piano Man, and it was about Spider-Man, and there was a line about Green Goblin that says, and he's wearing that dumb Power Rangers mask, but he's scarier without it on, which is true. So I hope they don't do that. I think you were going to say something, Andris?
Yeah, both of the Green Goblins that we've gotten in this and like on screen, like that Amazing Spider-Man 2 Green Goblin. Whoo-wee.
Was that Dane DeHaan?
Yeah, Dane. Where the fuck have you been in the past 5 years, DeHaan? Because he kind of had like, he was blowing up for a bit. Now I don't know where he is.
He was. I think the last thing I saw him in was one of the first movies that I reviewed on my channel. So this is going back a bit of a ways.
It's a throwback, y'all.
It was what was it called?
Was it Valerian?
No, I didn't see
Oh,
that. I heard it was
was it-
terrible.
I tried watching it.
The Curse for Wellness.
A Cure
The
for
Cure
Wellness.
for Wellness. Yeah.
I hated that movie so hard. He was good in it. He was fine. Um, the movie had so much good going for it. Did either of you see it?
No,
No.
I heard nothing but bad things, so I was like, I'll just skip it.
Amazingly well shot. Really, like the whole movie felt like Shutter Island, which I love Shutter Island. In my opinion, that's his best movie. Not his best movie, it's my favorite movie of his. But it's very, very
Of who?
the director,
Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese, yeah.
That's
Not
your-
his best movie. Not his
That's
best
your
movie.
favorite Martin Scorsese film?
Favorite. I love
Whoa.
that movie.
Interesting.
I also
Okay.
read the book first, and I loved the book.
Oh,
And I
right
thought the movie nailed the book.
Nice.
I would never say it's his best movie, not even close, but I love it.
That's fair.
But this movie is a lot like Shutter Island until you get to the end, and then you get the reveal. And I actually left the movie like furious because the ending was so fucking stupid and like antithetical to everything. I'm going off. Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, Spider-Man. No,
Yeah.
I feel I heard nothing but bad things about that movie, so I just kind of skipped it. And I think that being in a couple stinkers in a row kind of tanked Dane DeHaan's career. That, and also he just kind of sounds like a douche and everything.
Okay.
Dane DeHaan. Anyway, I'm right there with you about the Power Ranger costume for Willem Dafoe. I hope they change it because as far as casting goes, holy shit, could it not? That is one of the. I love Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
And casting him either as the Green Goblin or the Joker, it would just be like he could do either of them. So his cackling and his performance outside of the Power Rangers costume,
Bitsy spider.
it's amazing. It's the right level of campy but menacing. He knows exactly what he's doing. So yeah, give him a proper costume, and I think that it's going to be fantastic.
See, the only problem though is if you go changing all the costumes, you're like, well, why is it a multiverse then?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's that's the point of the multiverse is these people exist, but if you're changing the costume,
But if it's still Willem Dafoe, it's still Willem Dafoe. So I'd still be happy if
Maybe he
like,
just lost the mask.
Where the fuck did I put it? Oh my god. Where's my face paint? I gotta be green.
Spider-Man is rubbing paint on himself. See, why don't we write, we can write our own spec script of what we think it's going to be like. It's just
yeah.
the Green Goblin for 3 hours just looking for,
Where's my fucking mask?
All right. So
I'm a bit of a science man myself.
yeah.
okay. So so Spider-Man No Way Home. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Oh, one last thing. This doesn't have to be a big thing, but what was I going to say? Yes or no? Do you think this movie's actually going to stick to its December release date or not?
Ooh. I don't know. It depends on the rate of vaccination and the rate of mutation of the variants.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna bet yes. I think Sony's just gonna. I think they're just gonna do it.
I only asked partially because Venom got delayed, I think, until 2022. Because that was supposed to come out in October. So, and they're both a Sony thing, similar. So that was just one thought I had, is that I was like, oh, I don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but I remember them saying we're probably going to delay Venom again. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're going to keep this December release date, but we'll see.
Well, we'll let you guys know. So we're going to move on to our final topic of the day.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, our patented Andris discussion question. Andris, pose your question, sir.
Let us pose the question as soon as I find it on my phone. Blah, 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 blah.
Who
blah,
let
blah.
the dogs out?
Hello.
I believe it was the Baja Men.
What is the Baja Man?
The Baja Boys. Anyway, what true... okay, wow.
Take two.
Let's try this again. Gentlemen, the question of the day. What true crime story would you like to see adapted into a film? That is, infamous serial killers, bank heists, unsolved cases, etc. Who wants to go first?
I will go first because I'm not really qualified, so we'll just get me out of the way.
All right.
So, it's funny, Chris, you mentioned earlier that apparently it's a thing with women and true crime podcasts. And I couldn't help but smirk because I don't really know much about true crime. I've got nothing against it. It's just not, I don't know, not really my thing, I guess. My girlfriend is all about the true crime podcast. So I had to consult with her. She's a consulting producer on this particular episode of the show. And she was telling me about a woman. This was, I believe the murder took place in 2008. She is currently in jail for life with no parole. Her name is Jodi Arias, something like that. She was from California. Her boyfriend was from Arizona. He was a Mormon. She converted to Mormonism to be with him. His friends found this guy's body in the bathtub. He'd been dead for like 5 days. They called the police, and the police were saying, had anyone been giving him trouble? And they were like, yeah, his ex-girlfriend was like slashing his tires and blah, 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 blah. This guy had been stabbed 27 times, had his throat sliced open, and then shot in the head just for good measure.
Jesus.
And then I was watching a little Anderson Cooper thing from when it came out. When she was first arrested, she was like, no, we were good. And then they found like naked pictures of each other on their phones. And then they like brought her back for questioning later. And she was like, no, it was a home invasion, blah, blah, blah. And then she admitted to the murder, but she was like, it was in self-defense. And then she said, I have a witness and it's God, and he knows I didn't do this, and no jury will convict me. Also, I'm going to kill myself. And now she's in jail for the rest of her life. So Jodi Arias, that's I guess my pick, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's rough. I mean, that's a brutal story. I feel bad. I mean, just imagining, that happening to your a friend, family, brother, like awful.
Just like, how crazy do you have to be to like keep going to that extent, right?
Yeah.
Like it made me think of, there's that moment in Shawshank Redemption, right in the beginning, where Andy's on trial, and the guy says, a revolver holds 6 bullets, but each person was shot 4 times, which means like he shot them both 3 times and then stopped to reload to shoot them again. Like this is kind of that times like 1,000, right?
Yeah. It's like, how unhinged do you be to just keep going for that long?
And then you see footage of her like on the witness stand, and she's just like stone cold. It was chilling. It's chilling.
Yikes! I'm gonna look it up. It's awful.
Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
Or no,
go ahead.
Yeah. So thankfully mine doesn't have like an unhappy ending, but it's still just strange and just mysterious. So this is happened as recently as 2016, and it's happened in Australia. It's about this family called the Tromp, Tromp family, and thankfully no one died. But essentially they went missing for a while, and it was just a strange, unexplainable circumstance that they can't get an answer out of this family. So at some point, a friend went over to their house. They saw that like everything was open. They had a station wagon that was gone. They had another car that was still by the house, but a key was in the ignition. They went inside. All their cell phones, their wallets, everything was left there. There was a stack of financial documents and passports, just like on tables, neatly organized, like someone went through it. And they couldn't find these people for weeks. Eventually, they started finding the families one by one. They were alive, though. One of them essentially was like, yeah, our family. This is a family of 5, by the way. It was a mother, a father, and 3 adult children. The youngest was 22. So they were all adults. And basically, they just one day just got up, the entire family, and just drove, like with this fear that someone was after them, that something was going to happen. But they kept kind of, like I said, finding the family one by one, because they kind of like separated. So they found like the son, they tried to question him, nothing. They found the daughter, she was in a catatonic state, nothing. They found the other kid, nothing. When they caught the parents, because like, where the hell are you? You haven't reported to work. There's a national search going on for you from your family and friends in Australia. And they just didn't give him answers. Like, what were you running from? Why did this happen? What did you do? on this road trip, because like there was weird things about it. There's so many like weird little details that like would take forever to get into, but it's one of those like unexplained mysteries where it's like, well, technically so far there hasn't been a crime that they committed, but at the same time it's like, what the hell happened? Like why did they just drive across Australia, which is a big ass country, by the way. That's several thousand miles and thousand kilometers. And the fact that these children, who are adults, I say children, but they were kids that were adults, were left in like this catatonic state, and they just couldn't even talk. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened. I don't know why I'm thousands of miles away, and why the dad is so paranoid. So weird little story. It's like I said, thankfully it doesn't have a grisly ending. So if you want something that's just kind of more on the mysterious side, I would check out the Australia Tromp, Tromp family,
and get Hugh Jackman to play the father.
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course.
Right on. Okay, Andris, bring it home.
All right, I am going in the opposite direction time-wise, and also in the opposite direction of number of bodies-wise.
I'm ready.
All right. This is many regard him as America's first serial killer. He was known as H.H. Holmes. I don't know if you guys know about him, but in the 1893 World's Fair, he was a serial killer. He was a con man. He knew how to make things happen. So what he actually did was, after conning his way into owning a pharmacy, he built this block-long murder castle over the head. He sold it to people as for the World's Fair as a hotel, but it was like the second and third floors. He hired so many different construction companies to build parts of it, so nobody knew the actual layout of it. And he claimed to have killed as many as 200 people. And then he dumped the bodies down this chute in the basement. There was a furnace and an acid vat, and it's the craziest thing ever, because it's like 1893. And the craziest part is, like, people know about it, but nobody's really done a definitive cinematic version of his story. And there was steam for a film. DiCaprio was actually on board, but as of 2021, it hasn't been shot yet. So it would be a very compelling, horrifying, landmark in American history, a dark part of Chicago's history, and I think it should be made.
Yeah,
and Hugh Jackman plays the father.
And Hugh
Jackman plays the father, of course.
Yeah, I actually have heard of that, because there's a book. It's a nonfiction book. It's also it's a non-fishing book as well. It's not about fish, but it's called Devil in the White City, and that's what Leonardo DiCaprio, he bought the rights to, and he was going to do a movie on it. And so that's when I first heard about it. I'm like, oh, who's this H.H. Holmes dude? It's wild. So Court, if you haven't heard about it, or if anybody listening, if you haven't heard about it, and if you're into true crime, if you're into if you can stomach kind of more grisly descriptions and stuff, check it out, because the dude built a literal house of horror. And it's just crazy that it's not talked about more often. It's like you would open a door and there'd be just a blank, like a wall behind the door, and then it's like corridors going to nowhere. It was like the Winchester Mystery House, except in this case, somebody's trying to kill you inside of it. Yeah, it's just strange. I want to know what the construction guys thought. They're like, why are we building this shaft to a scary dungeon, Mr. Holmes? Like, shut up. Here's a penny. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna read up on this guy on my walk this evening. That sounds fascinating. Not while walking. You're gonna be like, oh no,
oh no, it's him.
I'm in the suburbs. I'm fine.
Yeah. Court will be number 201. I hope not.
You got to be worried. You're the one in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
He was like, thanks for reminding me. Damn it.
You also live in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
How are you zooming? This is crazy.
I'm a time traveler. Anyway,
great choice.
Yeah, for sure.
Great choices all around.
All right. Well, I think that is the show, gentlemen, and of course, everyone watching. As always, we want to thank you for watching. We want to encourage you to jump into the comments and let us know whatever you thought about our topics today. We would love it if you would drop a like on the video. Give it a share around, help the video get out there and help the channel grow. you're on my channel right now. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love you forever if you did so. As per usual, I'm going to ask Chris, how can people find you online?
At my Instagram handle, which is called Art of Light and Shadow. It's just kind of a daily blog about films. I kind of post everything that I'm watching, which is both from like classics to foreign films to just, modern stuff as well. I try not to be picky, but I do fun stuff like kind of community-based voting about movies that you like. Well, also I'm doing kind of like a best of list. I just went through the 2000s. I'm going to soon do my personal best of films for the 1990s. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, check it out. Art of Light and Shadow.
Andris?
If you do a YouTube search for Cheap Thrills Unspeakable Terror, you will find my reviews. I do low-budget sci-fi and horror from the dawn of cinema to the modern era.
And of course, you guys, as I said, you're on my channel right now. You can also check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Courtshake. Also, just a quick recommendation. This video will be coming out on August 30th, which means on August 31st, there's a new show coming out on Hulu or Disney Plus, I believe, if you're in Canada, called Only Murders in the Building. Disney sent me screeners of the first 8 of 10 episodes of season 1. Maybe it's a limited series. I'm honestly not sure. Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. It's kind of a whodunit comedy. I really like this show. They're dropping the first 3 episodes on the 31st. So that's a recommendation from me. We might talk about it, spoilers, on the podcast next week. Chris, I think next week we'll probably be talking Shang-Chi as well, won't we?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
I believe that comes out September 3rd.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll be doing that. Again, we want to remind you guys that you can always get the audio versions of this podcast at places like Spotify, Google Podcasts. So check that out if that's more your thing. And as always, we want to just say this thing in this world, it really, really does suck. We're all in this together. So we just want to encourage you guys to take care of yourselves, be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Later.